Alright, so, first things first, we need to review combining like terms. You guys just took a homework quiz over it, so hopefully we did well. So number 1, what's my answer, everyone? Good, negative 6x. Number 2, what's my answer, everyone?
17a minus 8.
Good. 3, what's my answer?
12w minus 14.
Perfect. And number 4?
Negative 9k plus 14.
Good. And remember, you could all have those flipped around, but those are the most common ways to write it. So that's what we just took a homework quiz over. We just worked on the last 2 days. The next 4 were your distributive property, which we did on Monday. So we had to review how to do the distributive property. So, let's see if we remember how to do this. Number 5, what did we get?
8x plus 40.
You should have told me 8x plus 40. Number 6.
Negative 8x equals 36.
It should be negative 8x plus 36. Why is it a plus 36 and not a minus 36, Riley?
Because both the negative 4 and the negative 9 are negative, so...
Good. Excellent. I have a negative here, a negative here. The 2 negatives make a positive. So what about number 7 then? 42 minus 7x. That one was pretty self-explanatory. 8, a little bit more complicated. So this one should say negative 3x minus 3. Why is it a minus 3 and not a plus 3, Cooper?
Because negative 3 times 1 positive is negative.
Good. I have a negative 3, a positive 1. A negative times a positive is a negative, so we write a negative 3 or a minus 3. Good. Remember, no more plus negatives, right guys? No more minus negatives. We write plus signs and minus signs. Why do you think we reviewed combining like terms and the distributive property? What was the point of that? Well, yes, eventually you will, and you already have technically had quizzes over them. Because it goes straight into our simplifying expressions, which we're learning today. So an algebraic expression in simplest form is when it has no like terms, meaning when I look up at the 8 examples up above, there are no terms that are alike. They are all different terms. 12w and 14, they are different terms. 8x and 40, they are different terms. So they have no like terms, and they also have no parentheses. So in order to simplify an expression, we essentially are just using the distributive property and combining like terms. We are putting the last 3 days into one problem. So step number 1, the first thing you must do you think you're going to combine like terms first, or do you think you're going to distribute first?
Distribute.
Good. You need to get rid of those parentheses first. So distribute first. And after you have done your distributive property, what are you going to do next? Combine like terms. Now I am going to use colors just to kind of help show. If you would like to use colors, you are more than welcome to. Or you can use shapes, whatever you think might help you. Okay, so let's go and look at number 1. So what do we say the first thing we must do is?
Distribute.
Distribute. What am I distributing?
3 times x times 2.
So I'm going to distribute that 3 to the x and the 5. What's that going to give me, everyone?
3x minus 15.
3x minus 15. Then just like with order of operations, bring everything down with it. Bring down the plus 8x, bring down the plus 1. What's step 2?
Combine our terms.
Combine like terms. So what's the first term you see?
3x
And what can I combine 3x with?
plus 8x.
Well, 3x plus 8x is,
11x.
what's my next term?
Negative 15.
And,
Plus 1.
don't forget your integer rules, negative 15 plus 1 is negative 14, which means my simplified answer is 11x minus 14. So you are not learning anything new today or tomorrow. You are just putting two concepts that we've already learned together into one problem. Autumn.
Is it negative 15 plus 1 negative,
Negative 14? Yep, integer rules. Okay, let's go to number 3. What's the first thing I need to do? Distribute. What am I distributing?
7 to even. 7 to positive 12.
So distribute that negative 7 throughout the parentheses. Be very, very careful. This is where students make mistakes, is because of that negative sign. That negative is going to get us every single time if we are not careful. So, Chloe, tell me what we get.
negative 7w plus, negative 28,
Okay, I don't want to say plus a negative 28.
then
Minus 28, good. If we have multiple operation signs there, the plus sign and the negative sign, it's just going to confuse you. It's not that it's wrong, it's just going to confuse you. So if you see plus a negative, what's that mean, everyone? What does plus a negative mean, everyone?
minus.
So plus a negative means minus. If we see minus a negative, that means what?
Positive.
That would be a plus sign. So make sure we have just a minus sign or just a plus sign, because I promise it'll help you out. Then you can bring down your plus 2w minus 15. And now we can combine like terms. What's the first term we see, everyone?
Negative 7w
Negative 7w, and that goes with what?
positive 2w.
Don't forget your integer rules. Negative 7w plus 2w is?
Negative 5w.
Okay, I should have a lot more people responding and answering to me, and I'm not. What's the next term that I should have boxed in? And what goes with negative 28?
Negative 15.
Do not forget your integer rules. Negative 28 minus 15 gives me what?
Negative 43.
So if it's a negative 43, do I write a plus 43 or a minus 43?
Minus.
So negative 5w minus 43 is your answer. Questions so far? Okay, we're going to go to the green page. We'll come back to the other pink problems. And I want to go to number 8. This time the parentheses is not the very first thing, is it?
Nope.
That's still okay. You still do the distributive property, but you have to be very, very careful. Okay? What am I distributing through my parentheses on number 8? Okay, do you guys see how the 2 has a minus sign in front of it? That means the 2 is what type of number?
Negative.
So you have to take that minus sign with you. If you don't, you are going to get it wrong. So it's a negative 2 distributed throughout that parentheses. If it's a plus sign, it doesn't matter, but the minus sign matters. So that 12x remains the same. It's going to stay in front because I've done nothing to it. But then when I distribute, negative 2 times 9 is what, everyone?
Negative 18.
which students always get that part correct. It's the next part we get wrong. What should the next term say? It should say plus 2x. They'll get the 2x right, but we'll get the plus sign wrong, so we'll put a minus sign. Why is it a plus and not a minus? Good, there's those two negatives. Do you see why it's important to take that minus sign with or that negative sign with?
Yep.
Okay, now you can combine like terms. Get some in a minute, Cooper. Cooper, I'll get some in a minute, bud. What can I combine together?
12x and 12x.
And?
2x.
So 12x plus 2x is?
14x.
And then what do I have left? Can I combine that with anything?
No.
So I just write? So your answer is 14x minus 18. Do you see how we'd get the answer wrong just by forgetting the plus sign to a minus sign? Very, very important. Okay, what about number 9? What about that one? What's my first step? Distribute. What am I distributing?
Negative 1.
There's a minus sign in front, and that minus sign with no number right in front of the parentheses means what?
1.
So there is a 1 right here, which means I'm distributing what? I'm distributing a 1?
Negative 1.
I'm distributing a negative 1. So if I distribute that negative 1, that 18 remains the same, because that was outside of my parentheses. And what does that change then about my rest of my problem? It should say 18 what?
Minus 7v.
9 minus 7v. And then what? It should say a minus 1. Because I have to distribute the negative 1 to the positive 1. And a negative times a positive is a?
Negative.
Which means it has to be a minus sign. This is the one area that is the hardest for students and the one area that students mess up. What's my first term?
18.
And what can I combine with 18? 18 minus 1 is?
17.
And then what is my next term?
Minus
Anything to combine with that?
Nope.
So I just bring it down, write it down with it. Questions on that at all? Okay, let's do one more together. We're going to do number 13. And then all of you do some on your own, / with a partner. So I have to do what first? Distribute. And what do you notice about number 18? It has 2. So you have to distribute for both of them. So let's do the first one first. What's the first number I'm distributing?
16k minus.
I'm not asking what the answer is. I'm asking what I'm distributing.
8 and 2k.
Good. So what do I get then, everyone, when I distribute?
16k
Minus what?
56.
That one was the basic easy one. The next one's the harder one. What number am I distributing on the second set of parentheses? What am I distributing, everyone?
Negative 4.
So if I distribute that -4, what should that first term say?
Negative 4k.
So I'm writing that minus 4k. And then what should the last term say?
Negative 20.
The negative sign, I can't stress it enough, that minus sign is what is going to mess you up. It's those integer rules. Now you can combine like terms. What's my first term?
16K.
And what can I combine with 16K?
Negative 4K.
16K minus 4K is?
12K.
What's my next term?
Negative 6.
And I can combine that with?
Negative 20.
Don't forget your integer rules. Negative 56 minus 20 is?
Negative 76.
So do I write plus 76 or minus 76?
Minus 76.
Do you guys notice that not once did I ever write plus a negative or minus a negative? Did you guys notice that?
Yes.
Okay, if you do that, it's not that you're wrong, but it's going to make it much harder on you. Is that understood?
Yes.
Alright, what questions do I have before I have you work with a partner?